This video is brought to you by Ugreen. Throughout recent iOS releases, Apple have always introduced tons of new features, but most of them could have been considered incremental when it comes to how you interact with the iPhone. And I'm saying this from the perspective of my in-laws, for example. You see, whenever a new release drops, most of the time they wouldn't be bothered because visually, things look very similar. With the upcoming iOS 18, however, things might come as a shock to many, so I prepared a guide. In this video, I'll guide you through visual overhauls that make sense, and I'll also go over features that you might want to take advantage of. Now keep in mind that at this stage of the release of Apple Intelligence, I will not focus on AI features as most of them are yet to be unveiled. So if you're like me, and you like to keep your device in dark mode by default, upon updating iOS 18, your home screen might shock you, and the reason for that are the new dark mode app icons, which initially I thought looked amazing. A few weeks later, I'm still a bit confused. Perhaps I'm brainwashed from the years of the same. All jokes aside, if you tap and hold on an empty space on your home screen to enter jiggle mode, you'll now see a new button on the top left called Edit. And once you press it, you can choose if you want to add a widget, or in the case of this topic, customize the home screen. This is where you can revert back to your normal light icons or go dark or even experiment with tinted icons. Regardless of your choice, one thing you might want to consider is trying the large icons, which will hide the app labels, which is a great way to make your phone look more minimal, but more importantly, this is something that might come in handy for those of you who are looking to scale things up for better visibility. While on the topic of the home screen, one new thing you can try is scaling up or down your existing default widgets, which wasn't possible before. You no longer have to delete a widget to then add a different size, but keep in mind that this doesn't work on all widgets. For example, my homage widget, which I'll link below, is specifically designed to be a medium size one. So I don't see the pull tab on the bottom right, but if you see it, that means that you can resize. To me, by far, the most useful new home and lock screen feature is the ability to finally change the lock screen buttons. This happens once you tap and hold on the lock screen to press Customize. The over decade-old flashlighting camera buttons can now be remapped, and a great example would be replacing the camera button with, let's say, a custom camera app like Final Cut Camera. Another new thing you'll notice once you update is a new app called Passwords. With it, Apple has finally detached the settings integrated password section into a dedicated app, which makes so much sense. Personally, I use a third-party password manager since I live across multiple platforms, but if you're only in the Apple ecosystem, this will come in very handy, especially once you upgrade your Mac and iPad, which will also carry the app. Design-wise, the app looks very similar to other default apps like reminders, so you'll be in familiar waters. Okay, so let's move on to another visually striking difference with iOS 18, and that is the completely new control center. Not only everything looks round and more colorful now, but in fact, there are multiple control center screens to play with and customize. By tapping the little plus icon on the top left, you can start moving around and resizing everything to your liking. And with that being said, keep in mind that the default 3 or 4 screens that you'll see upon updating are actually placeholders, meaning you can completely, wipe everything and start with a clean slate, which is absolutely unlike Apple. Another new, tiny little feature that is long overdue is now in iOS 18. When you pull down the control center on the top right, on the top right, you have a software power button, which is more than welcome because you no longer have to do the, combo sequence with the buttons gymnastics, and all you have to do is press on that. But it doesn't work as simple because in order for you to trigger it, you have to force press it, and then you'll have the option to power off the iPhone. In my preparation for my new Ultimate iPhone home screen episode, I had to delete everything only to start from scratch and experiment with UI that makes visual and ergonomic sense. For example, having my media controls alongside the brightness and volume sliders is paramount, and it should live in the bottom for when I want to adjust things, single-handedly. This new Ultimate iPhone home screen episode is going to be bonkers, so you should definitely subscribe, because why not? Let's get more serious for a moment and talk about the ability to hide and lock individual apps. For example, you can tap and hold on an app icon and choose Require Face ID to authenticate and open it. That, of course, works with Touch ID as well. This, ladies and gentlemen, is long overdue. Instead of freaking out that someone might be, accessing your photos or notes or other banking or financial information, rest assured you can simply lock an app for peace of mind. Once you lock it, as soon as you open it, it will scan your face and it will let you in, which, let's be honest, works lightning fast. Now, if you want to hide an app, different from Photos and Safari, you can select Hide and Require Face ID. Hiding an app works very simple. All you have to do is tap and hold on an app and press on Require Face ID. Once you do that, you'll need to authenticate, but before that you have to choose Hide and Request Face ID for that purpose. Now once this is done and I authenticate, I can just confirm hiding the app, which will disappear from the home screen, and where you can find it is in the app drawer all the way at the bottom where it says Hidden. Once you tap here, you will be asked again to authenticate and you'll be able to reveal all the hidden apps. By the way, did you know that iOS 18 introduces enhanced battery preservation features? One of the key additions is the ability to set a specific charging limit accessible through the Settings app under the Battery section. This feature helps extend the battery life by allowing you to select a charging limit. Speaking of charging solutions, Ugreen offers some of the best options available, my personal choice being the Nexode Pro 100-watt charger, which you might have seen in my recent EDC episode. This 3-in-1 smart charger includes 2 USB-C ports and 1 USB-A, with the main USB-C port delivering a full 100 watts fast charge. For instance, it can charge my 14-inch MacBook Pro from 0 to 50% in just 27 minutes. Despite its powerful capabilities, this charger is super compact, easily disappearing in my sling. The charger features a GaNfinity chip, which is a next-generation GaN technology that ensures high efficiency with minimal heat generation, while also providing protection against short circuits, overvoltage, overtemperature, and overcurrent. If you're looking for a reliable, efficient, and portable charger, check out the Ugreen Nexode Pro 100 watts by following the very first link in the description below. Now let's not forget that the iPhone is a phone first, so let's talk about the phone app. Apple has been criticized for years, having not introduced something that existed for many years, if not decades, called T9 calling, which works in the dial pad, where you can just type the letters of the phone of the person that you want to call, and then you're just ready to go ahead and call them. It is finally here. Thank you everything that is holy in Cupertino. We finally have a dedicated call icon in the Recents tab, which means you will no longer call back by accident the courier that just dropped your package, or simply call someone else in your Recents list in your attempt to hang up to the person you were just talking to a second ago. Of course, the call button changes according to the type of call that took place, meaning if someone called you via FaceTime or Messenger, you'll call them back via the same app again. Another super useful feature in the phone app, and again under Recents, is the search option. So if you have a vague memory of a random phone number you spoke to a few days ago, you can start typing the digits you remember to be presented with what you were looking for. iOS 18 introduces a feature called Vehicle Motion Cues, designed to reduce motion sickness when in a moving vehicle. Motion sickness often results from a sensory conflict between what your eyes see and what your body feels. For example, when you're in a car, your body senses movement, but if your eyes are focused on a stationary object like a phone screen, this mismatch can cause nausea. Vehicle Motion Cues addresses this by displaying animated dots on the edges of the screen that move in response to the vehicle's motion. Moving on to some miscellaneous improvements that might come in very handy in your day-to-day life, the simplest of which is the addition of new background sounds. This is something that I started using around my kids only to permanently get hooked on it. Running an ambient wind or rain sounds allows me to sleep like a log, especially when I'm traveling. And now there are 2 new sounds, night and fire, the night being my favorite. Of course, I had to place the background sounds right above my volume slider in the new control center. Next up is vocal shortcuts. This setting lives under the accessibility settings under speech, and what it will allow you to do is record a vocal shortcut similar to, summoning a certain voice assistant to trigger an action. An action could be a shortcut or predefined system action, and the voice command can be anything you like, except whistling. Don't ask me how I know this. For example, I can say Battle Cruiser Operational. Battle Cruiser operational. Oh, it worked! Took a screenshot. It's a little bit buggy right now, but that's the gist of it. This is how it works. And feel free to let me know interesting implementations that come to your mind when it comes to vocal shortcuts. And also, if you know where this reference is, Battle Cruiser operational, leave it in the comment below. I've prepared a rapid productivity round in a bit, but before we get to that, let's discuss two very important apps. First up is messages. Here I see three things that matter. When you start a new message and you tap on the plus icon, you can now scroll down and find something super useful. Send later. If you're working with people across different time zones or you simply come up with something in the middle of the night, you can easily schedule it. If you plan on using that a lot, by the way, you can press and hold to move it up above the More button. Next up is the ability to format a text to emphasize on something. This works via the little format A letter on the right side. Bold, italics, animated, you name it, it's there. Awesome. Last but not least, you can react to a message with any emoji, which means I can finally reply back to my friend Patrick Rambles with a biceps emoji. The second important app is the Photos app, which to me was a big cultural shock. You see, you no longer have the tabs on the bottom, but instead have a brand new continuous scrolling interface that will definitely require you to get used to. The best way to describe it is to break it down into two sections. The top section, being a carousel section, features your photos, featured memories, favorite library videos, and a custom one which you can tailor to your taste. The bottom half is broken down into recent days, people and pets, and so forth. The good thing is that if you want to get to your chronological list of photos, you can simply swipe down from the bottom section that I just mentioned. With some upcoming iOS 18 developer releases, Apple is about to simplify the Photos app, which is great. So the top carousel section will be removed altogether, if I'm not mistaken, and the bottom one will be actually the customizable one, where you can add the different sections according to your preferences. Okay, so let's fire up the rapid productivity round. Number 1, you can do the math anywhere in iOS. This is clutch when splitting a bill in a message, for example. Number 2, in the Files app, you can finally force keep a file locally on the iPhone, just like on the Mac. No need to keep downloading the same things over and over. Number 3, the built-in voice recorder app finally has a transcription option. Let's give a moment of silence for the Just Press Record app. 4, you can control your iPhone via your eyeballs by enabling eye tracking control under accessibility. It works a bit clunky, but it works. Number 5, the calendar and reminders are finally talking to each other, which is a big deal in my book. Number 6, you can finally format external drives via the Files app, making it a much more mature solution for file management. A much needed overhaul in the Settings app is combining all the apps that previously took endless scrolling inside a separate page, which is more than welcome. So once you open them, you have all your installed applications in chronological order, and you can even search for them or just scroll by a letter on the side. Fantastic and more than welcome feature in my book. There are tons of other features worth talking about, like, iPhone mirroring on a Mac, but we'll get to that, I promise. Meanwhile, you can check out some of my favorite iPhone accessories right here. Like and subscribe to the channel, as well as my newsletter, and as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. This is E, over and out.